In today's industry news, Qatar Airways is buying more 777 freighters, Vietnam Airlines aircraft are grounded, and Ryanair should not be buying from a specific aircraft manufacturer. Why not begin with Vietnam Airlines, who are continuing to be impacted by aircraft groundings, as 75% of their A321neo fleet remains parked. The Vietnamese flag carrier has taken delivery of 20 of your A321neos, averaging some 5.9 years of age. However, with latest fleet data indicating only 5 planes are active, with 15 listed as being parked. The airline's impact is seen as one of the most hurt, as reliability concerns remain and it is impossible to transition its fleet fully towards the next generation. These Airbus single-aisle planes fitted with the Pratt & Whitney GTF engines are the primary source of the problem. Supply chain woes, maintenance pressures, and other factors have compounded to limit airlines' abilities to fly aircraft with these engines. In early 2024, Vietnam Airlines said that 20% of its domestic fleet would be grounded due to persistent engine issues affecting most of its network. However, the fact it is still happening as mid-2025 approaches highlights the concerns and uncertainties over when the evolving situation will truly come to an end. Ultimately, Vietnam Airlines' struggles are part of a broader problem, with many other of your global carriers recently feeling the pressures. Some airlines are beginning to see improvement in the number of aircraft that are parked on the ground for them. However, equally for others, the effects are still being felt quite considerably, causing financial strain for some. See, JetBlue, for example, recently stated that it expects to see fewer aircraft on the ground in the coming year than what was first forecasted. Could this be visibly seen as an improvement? Oh, absolutely, but that doesn't mean that it's, say, out of trouble. Other carriers have forecasted engine supply chain challenges to continue until at least the end of the decade, with concerns not just about the delivery of new engines, but also the impact that this is having on your plane deliveries and maintenance alike. When discussing Rolls-Royce engines aboard Vietnam Airlines' 787 series, obviously a much larger aircraft type, well, it highlighted how engines would be away for a period longer than what was agreed upon, 90 days for repairs, but wouldn't then return for 130 days or more. You can see the pretty hefty discrepancy that we're witnessing. These uncertainties impact companies such as Vietnam Airlines quite strongly, resulting in slowed growth and an inability to renew the fleet as intended while meeting demand. At times, this can result in a loss of market share. Over to the next story, and Qatar Airways has confirmed it'll purchase 5 Mammoth freighters, 777-200 LRMFs as part of an agreement finalization. More importantly, the Doha-based carrier has also been confirmed as the launch customer for its cargo division. Qatar Airways says it is proudly leading the global air freight market with purchases such as these, which especially signifies that it has some trust in this product, which it aims to become the launch customer of. The Doha-based operator also believes it needs to continue investing in freighter equipment, as demand is only going to also rise and it needs to have the available asset. Mammoth freighters. Try and say that just 3 times really quickly. I don't know about you, but I've struggled for the last 15 seconds trying to execute the sentence I'm trying to do without somehow messing up the pronunciation. It feels like a little bit of a tongue twister. Either way, they successfully completed their initial test flight for the first prototype, an essential step in the right direction. This aircraft is actually registered as N705DN. It previously flew with Delta. The unit was actually initially delivered to the US carrier in March 2009 and flew until the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the US company made the very difficult decision to axe the Boeing 777 fleet for the greater good. Now the aircraft is with Mammoth freighters and was able to complete its first flight after an extensive conversion that occurred in Texas at a modifications partner facility. While the first flight helps validate all the work that is being conducted and shows that they are on the right track, it demonstrates the capabilities of what the LRMF is actually going to be proven to do and the standard for conversions that we are beginning to witness. Freighter conversions are always going to be a common occurrence, but it will become more critical for specific aircraft types as the years progress, largely driven by aircraft forecasting and the general circle of life. We are going to start to witness more and more Boeing 777s that will continue to be retired from passenger operations, but that doesn't mean their operational life should necessarily be over. Passenger to freighter conversions, alongside many others, present great opportunities for planes to extend their life lives and provide valuable uses to freighter operators sooner than some maybe factory-built planes. As we know, there are always pretty hefty delays in relation to waiting for these planes to come on, so sometimes conversions can be the better way forward. Over to the final story and some interesting commentary, as US lawmakers are once more advising against the purchase of COMAC aircraft, which would not be for the first time. The rejection of COMAC planes centres around prospective interest from none other than leading budget European carrier of Ryanair. Reuters reporting suggests an internal letter discussed the possibility of purchasing COMAC-produced planes for future flying, if Ryanair saw a price that was deemed adequate for them. Speaking with Skift, the outspoken but also insightful Michael O'Leary, who is the airline's CEO, said that the prospective purchase of aircraft from China could take place once again if they have that optimal deal on the table. Attention towards other plane makers that we are beginning to see follows the many supply chain woes that have impacted Airbus and Boeing, throwing delivery timeframes completely out the window. However, one of the more pressing concerns now is also around the ongoing trade tensions between the United States and many other global countries. Ryanair receives all of its aircraft from Boeing. It is one of the American plane makers' largest and therefore most important customers. Trade tensions aside, Ryanair has become increasingly more frustrated by Boeing's persistent struggles, which have led to an inability to give planes to the low-cost carrier on time. COMAC has been believed to really be in a position to pounce on the misfortunes being experienced and essentially come forward and show that they can provide a solution through their commercial aircraft portfolio, but it remains harder than just doing this. See, COMAC still needs to receive necessary approval from Europe and other markets before it can truly make a pounce on the Western scene, which is arguably what a lot of people feel is holding it back. Many will still always, though, remain skeptical about the adoption. All that can be said for Ryanair and their prospective interest is that those in the US firmly believe airlines should not be contemplating the purchase of commercial aircraft from Chinese companies, period. Remember, this reporting of Ryanair being interested in COMAC and then basically having US lawmakers come out and say, look, there should be no world where Ryanair is committing to COMAC, follows Korean Air also being asked in an exclusive interview whether or not they would consider the purchase of the Chinese plane makers' aircraft, as they continue to also grapple delays in acquiring Airbus and Boeing planes, and Korean Air certainly remained very, very hesitant. They basically ruled out the consideration of this plane at least for quite some time. They feel that a lot of work needs to be done, not just probably with the aircraft themselves, but in terms of approval, spare parts, supply chains and more, for them to even consider purchasing the type. They have too good of a relationship with the likes of Airbus and Boeing to be making that dive into another manufacturer and, you'd argue, overcomplicating their business. Keen to hear your take down below in the comments. Thanks a lot for your support. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry recap.
And we'll fly.